Yo, what's going on YouTube? My name's SoFlo Sneakers, and in today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to successfully run Target on Stellar AIO. For a quick breakdown, we're going to be going over different aspects like a site overview, account information, tips and tricks, and overall just pretty much everything that you guys need to know. If this video provided you value, make sure to drop a like and make sure to subscribe to the channel for more future retail tutorials. Also, if you're trying to take your retail game to the next level, make sure to check out my cook group SoFlo Supply. I'll be leaving a link to our website down in the description below. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and on that note, let's get into it. So the first aspect of Target we're going to be talking about is just going to be a basic site overview. There's a few main items that drop on Target, which include consoles, sports cards, Pokemon cards, and other collectibles and random profitable flips. Target has definitely been trying to increase their bot protection over the past couple months, and they've been implementing various changes that we're going to be discussing a little later in the video. A major disclaimer that I try and put in all my videos is that everyone really needs to understand that the botting market is constantly changing and evolving, and it is so important that everyone does their own additional research outside of this video. Who knows, maybe you're watching this video a year down the line and Target or maybe even Stellar has made some massive changes that could really affect some of the information that we're going to be going through in today's video. So please guys, do your own additional research before investing your own time and your own money into something that you plan to pursue. One of the biggest factors when it comes to being successful on Target is actually going to be the Target accounts themselves. Target has always been pretty strict on accounts, and most of the time it is nowhere near as simple as just making the account and being able to check out high demand items with no issues. There's two main factors that are going to determine how good your Target account is, and those two are going to be the age on the account and the order history on the account. So when it comes to age, Target doesn't want to see an account be made yesterday and then the following day it checks out a high demand item like a console. When it comes to order history, Target doesn't want to see that the only purchases on your account are once again for these high demand items. One important thing to keep in mind is that results are really going to vary so greatly from person to person, so I encourage everyone watching to go and try to make fresh accounts, try to get your orders to stick, and overall just try different methods and see what's going to work the best for yourself. One of Target's biggest anti-bot measures is doing something called locking your account. How often your accounts get locked are really going to depend on a number of factors, and there's really no secret formula that's going to be telling you exactly why your accounts are getting locked, but when your account does get locked, you simply need to reset the password and then you should be good to go at least until the next time that it gets locked. Another thing Target likes to do on occasion is they'll actually flag your account as a reseller. Sometimes they might just flag the specific card that you're using. They could also flag your email or your catch-all, and other times they'll actually just flag the entire account as a whole. This honestly doesn't happen too often, but these different factors are definitely something to consider if, let's say, you're using an aged account with a ton of orders, but your new orders for high demand items are still getting canceled. Besides for trying to make fresh Target accounts yourself, one of the best things you can do is try to hit up your friends and your families and see if they have any accounts that they'd be willing to let you use. When you're just starting, even having one solid Target account that you can consistently hit on is such a big step up from just trying to make all completely fresh accounts. If you don't know anybody that has a Target account and you do need to start completely fresh, one of the best ways of getting some activity on your accounts is to actually use the accounts. You can try and do this by going in store and just picking up some groceries or just picking up some small other random items. You can also, of course, order some stuff online just to continue giving your account some real looking activity. The next section I wanted to go over is going to be in-store orders versus online orders. So pretty much the only high demand item that's going to be in-store pickup is going to be consoles like PS5s and Xboxes. The other items like sports cards, Pokemon cards, and other random profitable flips are more than likely going to be for shipping. One very important thing to note about Target is that they recently introduced something called red card exclusive drops. A red card is basically just Target's debit/credit card that you can apply for, and it'll give you 5% off of purchases that you make at Target. With these red card exclusive drops, you're not able to check out with your normal debit/credit card. The only way to check out is with this Target red card. Red card exclusive drops mainly just apply to sports cards and Pokemon cards, and at least up until this point, there hasn't been a red card exclusive drop for consoles. I'll leave some links in the description to Target's site explaining what a red card actually is and how to apply for it, but please guys, once again, make sure you're doing your own additional research and you're not just going and blindly applying for one of these Target red cards. We're going to be diving deeper into in-store versus shipping a little later in the video, but so far the main takeaways are just becoming familiar with red card exclusive drops and knowing which items are in-store pickup, aka consoles, and which items are shipping, aka pretty much everything else. That pretty much wraps up the account section and the general site overview, but if you guys have any additional questions, make sure to drop them down in the comments section below. On that note, we're actually going to hop onto the computer, we're going to start up Stellar, and we're going to get everything all set up and ready to go. Before we get started, I just wanted to mention that Stellar does have some pretty solid guides and documentations, which does cover a lot of the information we're going to be discussing in the video, so definitely make sure to check those out if you have any further questions, or maybe you just need a quick refresher of the information that we're running through. I'll be leaving a link to their guides down in the description below, and just for reference for this video, I am on Stellar version 2.2.88. When running Target, the three main things that you're going to need are going to be your accounts, your proxies, and of course, you need some sort of debit or credit card. We're going to hop into things and we're going to start going through these tabs on the left, and the first one we're going to take a look at is going to be the Sessions tab, which is going to be the fifth one down. The Sessions tab is basically where you're going to be signing into your accounts, so you won't have to continuously sign into them every time that you want to use the bot. Assuming that you're signing into your Target accounts correctly within the Sessions tab, your accounts should stay signed in for at least a week or two, and there's a pretty good chance that they could stay signed in for even longer than that. Once we click on Target, we're going to see that we have two options to get started, which are going to be the Add Session and the Mass Import Session. The only difference between these two is that when using Add Session, you're going to be adding your accounts one by one, and if you use Mass Import Sessions, you'll be able to add more than one at a time. We're just going to be focusing on Add Session in this video, because once you can do that, you should have zero issues using the Mass Import Sessions feature. So we're going to click Add Session, and the first thing it's going to ask for is a session name, and you just want to use the email that's associated with your Target account. So I'm just going to use a random example here, and we're going to do hello@gmail.com. We're going to hit save. And then we can just click the little pencil button here, and then we're going to see a bunch of different fields pop up. So in the email and password, of course, you just want to be using the email and the password associated with your Target account. And the next option we're going to have is going to be login proxy. So if you leave this login proxy blank, just like it is right now, that means that Stellar is going to be using your local IP address when signing into your Target accounts. From my personal experience, I really haven't had too many issues with strictly just signing into my accounts on my local IP address, but if you're noticing that your accounts are maybe getting locked more often, if they're getting signed out very quickly, or maybe you just think that your local IP or maybe even your server IP is banned, then it might be a good idea to throw a proxy into the login proxy section, so you'll be signing into each account with a different unique IP address. We're going to skip over access token for the time being, and then we have two other options at the bottom, which is going to be login method, and then we have fingerprint settings. So the first one I'm going to go over is fingerprint settings, and you can see that we have two options. We have static and then we have dynamic. This is a relatively new feature that got added into Stellar, but from my understanding, if we're going to be using static fingerprint, the only time you really want to be using that is if you are strictly only running your account within Stellar. If you're running your accounts within Stellar, maybe you're running it manual or with other bots too, then you would want to click dynamic fingerprint. But for me personally, I have accounts that I strictly only run in Stellar at all times, so I'm going to be selecting static fingerprint. But once again, if you have accounts and you use them between different bots, maybe you try to go manual once in a while, then you would want to select dynamic fingerprint. The next option we're going to take a look at is going to be login method, and as you can see, we have two options, which are going to be the cookie login and the token login. For me personally, I only use token login when signing into my accounts on Target. For whatever reason, when I tried to use cookie login, my accounts would sometimes sign out very quickly, and sometimes they would just have a bunch of random errors. So for that reason, I just decided to stick with token login because I've really had no issues when using it. Within the Stellar guides that I have linked down in the description below, they have a complete guide on both cookie and both token login, and I encourage everyone to try out both and see what's going to work best for their own personal setup. For this video, because I use token login, that's going to be the one that we're going to be running through. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to select token login, and that's going to bring us right up to this next section here, which is going to be the access token. The access token is basically just a token that you're going to be using when signing into your accounts, and the way that you get this is by downloading the token hardware Harvester extension, which is once again linked down in those Stellar guides in the description. So now if you don't already, go ahead and download the Stellar Token Harvester extension, and once you open it up, it should look like this that we see on screen here. So you can see that we currently have 0 access tokens generated, and we only have 2 options, which are reset access tokens and download access tokens. If you want to clear out all of your previous access tokens, then you would simply hit reset access tokens, and then once you actually do make an access token, which I'm going to be showing you guys how to do in just a second, then you're going to want to click download access token. In order to get the access token on our account, all we're going to have to do is simply sign into that account. So we're going to go and we're going to click sign in, and then of course you're going to want to type in the email and the password associated with your account. And one very important thing is that you want to make sure that you're selecting this button here which says keep me signed in, and that's basically just going to help your sessions stay signed in longer. So I have my email and my password filled out, I have keep me signed in selected, and then we're going to click sign in. So now we are officially signed into our target account, and all we're simply going to want to do is just open up that Stellar Harvester extension that should be running in the background right now. So we just opened up the Stellar Harvester extension, and you can see now that we have 1 access token complete. So all we're going to simply do is hit download access token, and you can see that it downloaded right here. And then your access token should be a long string of numbers and letters, and all you're simply going to want to do is copy and paste the entire thing, and make sure you're going all the way to the right if you're using Notepad. We're going to copy that, and then we are simply going to paste that into the access token section within Stellar. So just to do a quick rundown of the sessions tab, you have the session name, which you want to be the email on the account. Of course, you have the email, which is also going to be the email on the account. You have the password, which is going to be the password on the account. You have your login proxy, and like I said, I personally leave this blank when signing into my accounts, but if you wanted to use a unique IP address when signing into your accounts, then you would simply paste a proxy into this section here. We have our access token, which is only required if we are using token login. We have our login method, which is cookie and token, and once again, I personally only use token. And then we have our fingerprint settings. Static is if you are strictly running your accounts in Stellar only. Dynamic is if you are running your accounts in other bots also. Once we have all these fields complete, all we're going to simply do is hit log in, and if we look bottom left here, it says that we are successfully logged in, and now our session for our target account is all set up and ready to go. Of course, if you have multiple target accounts, then you're going to have to make a new session for each and every one of them. So our session is signed in, we're going to click save, and as you can see, our account status says ready, which means that we are all good to go and our account is officially ready to be used within Stellar. So now that our session is all set up and ready to go, the next tab we're going to be taking a look at is going to be the Proxies tab. If you're watching this video and you're really not too sure what proxies do, make sure to check out my proxy tutorial, which will be linked down in the description below. So once we're in the Proxies tab, the first thing we're going to want to do is click add, and then we're going to have a group name, and for this personal group name, I'm going to be naming it ISP. A couple months ago, you could virtually run just about any proxy on Target, and they really did not care at all whatsoever, but recently they have started caring more and more about proxies, and they actually have started to ban some proxies, which is something that we really would never see happen in the past. The big question I always get asked is whether you should be running ISP or residential proxies, and the answer is that you can honestly run either or. ISPs are of course a little faster, and speed is definitely important when it comes to running Target, but residentials, especially if they're fast, could work just as good as ISPs, and they could have a more broad range of IP addresses, which could be good for reducing the amount of bans that you're getting. So to summarize, you really could use either ISP or residential proxies on Target, and if you need a good list of recommendations, make sure to check out my sponsors, which will also be located down in the description below. So we're going to select our proxy list here, we're going to come to manage proxies, and this is simply where you would paste or type in your proxies, and for this example, I'm just going to type in some random numbers so it'll save, and you can see that our proxy is located right on screen here. We can also see that we are able to test our proxies within Stellar. So if we select our proxy, we select the URL, and we're going to be using Target, and then we would select the play button, which is going to test our proxy on target.com. So obviously this is not a real proxy, so I'm going to hit test and it's failed. But if you do have a good working proxy, you should get some number here, and realistically you would probably want it to be under 200 milliseconds if possible. So once you get some good working proxies and you insert it into your proxy list, you are pretty much good to go there, and that's actually going to lead us into the next tab, which is going to be the Profiles tab. Within the Profiles tab is where you're going to be inserting information like your billing and your shipping details, as well as your payment methods. So just like with the proxies, we're going to give this profile group a name. We're just going to say Target. We're going to click on it, and then we're going to click Add Profile. And you can see on screen that we have a bunch of different fields that we have to fill out, and these are all the normal fields that you would have to fill out when checking out on any website pretty much ever. When checking out with Stellar, there's two different options that you can do. Option number one is using all of the billing and shipping information that's already filled out within your actual Target account. Option number two is something called override payment, and that's going to be using all of the billing and shipping information that you fill out within the Profiles tab on Stellar. So option number one is using the information saved within your Target account. Option number two, which is called override payment, is using the information filled out within the Profiles tab on Stellar. Personally, I fill out my profiles identical to the information that I previously inserted into my Target accounts, but of course you can experiment with this and try out different things if that's something you wish to do. When looking at the profile fields, you have all pretty basic information that you fill out when you're checking out on any website. So you have the profile name, you can make that whatever you want. You have the email of the Target account, you have a phone number, payment details, shipping information, address, but there's one key point that you have to be aware of. This key point is going to be specifically for anyone using red cards. So when you have a red card, you're going to see that you have a 3-digit CVC code on the back of the card, just like most normal credit cards have. But when you're actually signing up for your red card, they're going to ask you to create a random 4-digit PIN of your choosing. When you're actually checking out on Target's site with a red card, they're not going to be asking for the 3-digit CVC on the back of the card. They're actually going to be asking for that 4-digit PIN that you created when you made the card. For that reason, when we're filling out the CVV details only when we're using a red card, you want to make sure that in the CVV you are using the 4-digit PIN that you created when you made the red card. You do not want to be using the 3-digit CVC on the back of the red card. Once again, when you're using a red card and you are inserting your profiles into Stellar, you want to make sure that you are using the 4-digit PIN that you created when you made the red card. As far as the card type goes when using a red card, I'm like 99% sure you can select any of these options. I personally select MasterCard, but I know other people use Visa and it works just fine. I'm pretty sure that Target red cards are literally just their own thing. They're not a MasterCard, not a Visa, and you can pretty much put whatever you want for the card type. The last point about profiles is that of course you're going to need a specific profile for each Target account that you have, and going off that, we're pretty much going to wrap up the profile section. Now since we've gone over sessions, proxies, and profiles, it's time to get into the fun stuff, which is going to be creating our tasks. So of course, we're going to have to come up to the tasks tab, which is the second tab down. And just like with proxies and profiles, we're going to have to create a task group. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to click add, and we're going to name this one consoles. And then we're going to select site and we're going to click target, click add, and then our task group is officially made. So we're going to hit the create task button up here, and then we're going to click on mode, and you're going to see that we have 3 different modes, which are monitor, safe, and hype 2. And the first mode that we're going to be taking a look at is going to be monitor. The easiest way to think about what a monitor task does is it's basically just consistently checking Target's site, and it's looking for the item you're monitoring to see if that specific item restocks. Your monitor tasks aren't linked to your account, and they're not actually checking out anything for you. It's simply there to check Target's site for the item that you're monitoring, and once that item does restock, your monitor task is then going to send an alert to your real task and then tell your real task to go and try to check out. I know this might sound a little confusing right now, but I promise guys, as we get further into the video, everything should start to make sense. The next section over is going to be our monitor proxies, and I personally recommend running ISPs for these. The reason being is that because ISPs typically don't have any data limits like residentials do, so you shouldn't be incurring any additional costs if you're running for an extended period of time. The next section below is going to be the SKU, and for this we're actually going to head over to Target's website. So I just pulled up the product page for the Xbox Series X, and the SKU is going to be located after the A dash in the URL. So we have the A dash, and then the numbers afterwards are going to be the SKU. So we're simply going to copy that, and then we're going to paste it right into the SKU in Stellar. The next section over is going to be delay, and this is basically going to be how often your monitor task is searching for the item that you're monitoring. So our delay is going to be calculated in milliseconds. So if we put 2000, that's going to be equivalent to 2 seconds. So every 2 seconds, our monitor task is going to be searching for the item that we're monitoring. The delay you're running is really going to vary greatly from person to person, but just for a rough estimate, you'll probably be fine running somewhere in between 2000 and 4000. If you notice that your proxies are getting banned, then of course you want to raise this delay up, but if you notice that your monitor tasks are having 0 issues whatsoever, then you might be good to drop them down a little bit. The next option is going to be our monitor type, and this is where things can get a little confusing, but just bear with me through this. Since we're making a task group for consoles, and like I mentioned earlier, consoles are ran through in-store pickup, then we're going to have to select a pickup monitor type. So you can see that we have 2 options for a pickup monitor type, and the one we're going to be running through first is going to be the normal pickup. The other pickup mode, pickup ATC or pickup add to cart, was literally just added on the last Stellar update, but I do feel like I have a pretty solid understanding of it, and we're going to be going over that a little later in the video. Just for a quick note, the new pickup ATC monitor method is going to be using the store IDs from various Target stores near your location. Since for right now, we're just going to be running the normal pickup mode, we will not have to touch this store ID section because once again, the store ID section is going to be used when you're using the new pickup add to cart mode. Because we're running the normal pickup mode, we are going to have to insert a zip code and we're also going to have to insert a radius. So the zip code is obviously the zip code you want to run for, the zip code that your Target stores are located in, and the radius is how many miles from your zip code is Stellar going to search to potentially look for an item to purchase. So if we put our radius at 25, that means that Stellar is going to search 25 miles in all directions from the zip code that you inputted for a possible Target store to check out on. For a rough estimate, and if you really don't want to be driving too far, I would recommend putting your radius in between 10 and 20 miles. But if you want to try to get as many consoles as you possibly can and you really don't mind driving all around town, then you could probably go somewhere upwards of 40, 50, 60, and I know some people that even run over 100. Of course, the higher radius that you run, the higher chance you're going to have of actually checking out a product because you're going to be looking at a ton of different stores. But I also understand that people don't want to be driving 100 miles away for a console, so this is really going to be a personal preference. The reset delay is how long your task is going to wait to search again once your monitor task sees an item restocks. So if your monitor task sees that an Xbox restocks, and let's just say we put a reset delay of 3000, that means that once this monitor task sees this Xbox restock, it is now going to wait 3000, aka 3 seconds, to start searching again. For reset delay, once again, this is going to be a preference thing. I personally like to keep it anywhere from 2 to 5000, and this really isn't going to be a huge deal for your setup. Basically, the lower reset delay that you're running, the faster that your task is going to once again search for an item after it sees that it restocks. We then have start and end time, and this is where you can set a timer to start and end your tasks, and this could be beneficial for some people, but Target restocks are usually pretty random. At this point, we should have all of the necessary fields filled out, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to click create, and now we have successfully created a monitor task for pickup. Now, if we wanted to go back in and make a monitor task for shipping, it's essentially going to be the exact same process. So we're going to click create task. We're going to go to monitor, and then same thing, we're going to select our ISP list. So we're going to be using the same SKU for the Xbox, and you can kind of just ignore that. Of course, if you're running a monitor task for shipping, you want to be running for a shipping item like sports cards, Pokemon cards, and pretty much everything else that drops on Target. So just pretend that this SKU is for a shipping item, and then we have delay. We're going to put 2000 for that. And then we have monitor type, and this is going to be the main thing that is going to be different when running for shipping items. And you're going to see that we have 3 modes for shipping, which are going to be API, API2, and then add to cart or ATC. I've personally had the best success when running both API and add to cart monitoring methods for a shipping item, so these are the 2 that I would recommend running. So for this example, we're going to select add to cart, but I always double up and I always make some for add to cart, and then I also make some with API as well. Since we're running for a shipping item, we're not going to need any store ID, we're not going to need a zip code, and we're also not going to need a radius. And for the reset delay, I'm going to put the same 3000, and then of course we have our start and our end time, and then we would just go ahead and then we would click create. Since we're going to keep continuing with the pickup example, I'm just going to hit close, and then we still have our one monitor task created for a pickup item. So once we have our monitor task created, we are now going to go ahead and we're going to create our quote unquote real tasks. So we're going to click create task, and then we're going to see that we have 2 different options, which are going to be safe and then hype 2. At this current moment in time, hype 2 is definitely the preferred mode to use on Stellar when running Target. I don't believe that there is a huge difference between these 2 modes, but hype 2 definitely does get a lot less cancels than safe, so that's the mode that we're going to be using. Keep in mind that the setup process for both safe and hype 2 is pretty much exactly the same, so you shouldn't have any options if you want to switch from one to the other. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to select hype 2, and then you're going to see that we have a lot of the same fields that we just made in our monitor task. So the first is going to be our profile, and this is going to be the target account that you want to be running for this specific task. So we're going to just select the profile that we made a little earlier. The first option is going to be profile, and this is the target account that we want to be running for this specific task. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to select the profile that we made a little earlier. We then have our monitor proxy and our checkout proxy, and once again guys, this is going to be up to discretion. You can either be running ISPs or residentials, and both should realistically be working pretty fine. I personally run ISPs, so that's what I'm going to be using in this example. We then have fulfillment, and since we're running for consoles, once again, we're going to be selecting pickup. And then we're going to enter in the same SKU of that Xbox that our monitor task is using as well. And then we have delay. So with the delay on your Hype 2 tasks, I've personally noticed that you can definitely go a little lower than your monitor tasks, but this is going to be something that is going to vary from person to person, so it's just something that you have to experiment with. For delay, I'm going to be putting 1000, and then we have our quantity, and most of the time when running consoles, it's only going to be one checkout per account, so we're just going to select one there. We then once again have our monitor type, and you simply just want to match this to the mode that you made your monitor task with. So we used pickup in our monitor task, so we're going to match it, and we're going to select pickup for here as well. And then once again, since we're using pickup, we do not need a store ID, but we are going to need a radius. So we put 25 for our monitor task, so we're just going to put that right here as well. We then have our checkout delay, and I personally just leave this blank. I don't think this is very significant for Target, but of course, feel free to experiment with this as you wish. We then have our start time and our end time, and once again, up to discretion if you want to be using those. And then the first option that we have down here is going to be endless mode. When you're running your task with endless mode not selected, just like it is right here, that means that when your task successfully checks out, it's going to completely stop. If you go ahead and you select endless mode, just like we did there, then that means that once your task checks out, your task is going to start over again and it's going to continue trying to check out. Like I mentioned, with Target, it's pretty much one console per account per drop. So for that reason, I'm going to leave endless mode unselected just like it is there. And then the next option is going to be watch task. This is the part of the video where hopefully the monitor tasks start to make a little more sense. When we select watch tasks on our Hype 2 tasks, that means that our Hype 2 task is now going to be watching our monitor task, and whenever our monitor task now sees that whatever item it's monitoring restocks, it is going to send an alert to our Hype 2 task to go and try to check out. So just to reiterate, if we're running watch tasks for our Hype 2 tasks, that means that it is going to be watching our monitor task, and whenever our monitor task sees the item we're monitoring restock, it is going to send an alert to our Hype 2 watch task, and it is going to tell it to start and go and try to check out. So since we are running monitor tasks, we're going to go ahead and we're going to select watch tasks, and this is pretty much the setup that I always use for Target. And then the next option we're going to see is override payment, and if you guys remember, that's what I talked about a little earlier in the profile section. So if we have override payment off just like it is now, that means that Stellar is going to use the information within your Target account to try and check out. If we go ahead and we turn override payment on, that means that Stellar is going to use the information within your profiles to try and check out. So once again, if we have override payment checked off, that means that it's going to be using the information within your Target account. But if we have it turned on, then it's going to be using the information within your actual profiles that you should have made a little earlier. I personally leave override payment on. I don't really know if it makes too big of a difference, but that's just my personal setup. The next option is going to be to use Rakuten or not. And for anyone who doesn't know, Rakuten is basically just a website where you can get cash back on select purchases. I'm not going to go too into depth right now, but I will leave a link to their website down in the description below if that's something you want to check out. So at this point, our Hype 2 task should be ready to go. So all we're going to do is click create, and then we're going to hit close. And now you can see that we have our monitor task here, and then we also have our Hype 2 task below. So I just went into my tasks and made a couple changes because since I wasn't using a real proxy list, the task wouldn't start. And I also went ahead and I changed the SKU in both tasks to an in-stock item on Target's website. I did this because I want to show you guys the actual checkout process on Target's site and just kind of clarify even more how monitor and Hype 2 tasks go together. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start our Hype 2 task here. And now you can see that it says it is waiting for our monitor ping. And once again, guys, when the monitor picks up and sees the item is in stock, it is going to send an alert to our Hype 2 task to start and try to check out. So we're going to start our monitor task here. Checking stock, sleeping, checking out, verifying order, and wow, it's taking a while today. Checked out. There we go. Cool. So that is how Target works. That's how monitor tasks and Hype 2 tasks coincide with one another. So I hope that makes a lot more sense now, and I hope you guys have a pretty good understanding of how to run Target at this point. But the last mode that we're going to go through is the brand new mode, which is Pickup ATC or Pickup Add to Cart, and we're going to get going on that right now. So I'm just going to stop this monitor task. We're going to stop our Hype 2 task, and we're quite honestly just going to delete both of those. And then we're going to go and we're going to click Create Task. We're going to go to mode. We're going to select monitor once again because we're starting fresh with this new pickup mode task. And first of all, we're going to go to monitor type and we're going to click pickup add to cart. So the rest of the settings should be the same. So we're going to select our ISP list. We're then going to select the SKU of the product we're running for, which is going to be the Xbox. Same thing on the delay, we're gonna put 2000. And then remember guys, the difference between running pickup and running pickup add to cart is gonna be that for pickup add to cart, we're gonna be using the store IDs of various target locations near us. So when we're running pickup add to cart, we're not gonna be putting anything in for our zip code or our radius, but we are gonna be filling in the store ID section. So what is a store ID? It is basically just the ID that identifies a specific target store. So how do we find the store ID? We're gonna head on over to target.com. Once we're on Target site, we're just gonna click find stores, and then you're just gonna wanna enter the city or the zip code that you live in. So we're just gonna use this random zip code right here, 55413, and then all you have to do to find your Target store ID is you're gonna click store info, and then these last 3 or 4 digits at the end of the link is gonna be the store ID. So we're gonna copy that, we're gonna paste it in, we're gonna do a comma, then we're gonna go and we're gonna find another store ID. And Stellar recommends that you can do a max of 5 store IDs per task. So we're just gonna do 3 for this example. So we're gonna come back in, we're gonna go back out, store info, this store ID, paste it in, comma, and then we'll do one more. The last one, we'll do store info, copy and paste. And like I said, the store ID could be 3 or 4 digits. So don't let that trip you up. And there we go. So we successfully entered 3 different store IDs that this one monitor task is going to be looking for. So just to explain the quick difference, the pickup add to cart is going to be looking for specific stores that you specified. If you're using just the regular pickup mode with your zip code and your radius, then it's going to be looking for every single target store within the radius that you selected. So once you have your store IDs selected, once again, we're not going to have to put anything for zip code or radius. That is only if we are using the pickup mode here. And then we're going to enter our reset delay. And then we're gonna once again go ahead and select create. So now we have just successfully created a monitor task for the pickup add to cart mode, which once again uses store IDs. So now we're gonna have to go back in and we're gonna have to create a hype 2 task with this same mode. So we're gonna click create task. We're gonna select hype 2, and then everything else is pretty much gonna be the same as we did before, except we're not gonna be filling in radius, but we are gonna be filling in the store IDs. So I just selected our profile, then we're gonna go ahead and select our ISPs as well. And then for fulfillment, once again, we're gonna be clicking pickup. We're gonna enter the same SKU for the Xbox that we're running our monitor task for. For delay, I'm gonna once again put 1000. Quantity, we're gonna put 1. And then monitor type, we are now gonna select pickup add to cart because we wanna match it to our monitor task. So we're gonna select pickup add to cart. And then for the store IDs, you wanna be putting in the same store IDs that you're using in your monitor task. So I just inserted those. And then once again, because we are using the pickup add to cart mode, we do not need to insert a radius. We're not gonna put a checkout delay. We're not gonna do a start or end time. We are gonna select watch task and override payment. And then our hype 2 task for pickup add to cart is now complete. And now all we're gonna do is hit create. Just a few quick notes before we wrap this video up. One thing that you're not allowed to do on Stellar is you can't run multiple tasks for the same SKU on the same account at the same time. So basically the hype 2 task that we just made, if we go ahead and we duplicate it, and once again, I'm just gonna get rid of these proxies real quick. So we're gonna hit backspace, 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 backspace. So now when I start this task up, and then if I try to start this other task up, which is an exact duplicate, it's gonna say that we have a duplicate SKU task running. So now when you're running for a pickup item, you're gonna have to decide if you wanna just use the normal pickup mode, or you're gonna have to decide if you wanna use the new pickup add to cart mode. The new pickup add to cart mode definitely does seem faster because it's only searching for specific stores, but if you wanted to run across a ton of different stores to really increase your chances of copying, then you might be better off with running the normal pickup mode with a large radius. If you're only gonna be running a small radius, then at this moment in time, I would honestly suggest using the new pickup add to cart mode. But once again, if you're trying to hit a ton of different target stores in a large radius, then it might be better to use the pickup mode with a 50 or a 100-mile radius. Of course, which mode you want to run is definitely going to depend on your own specific circumstances, but I'm personally going to be trying to experiment with both of them. That right there is actually going to wrap up today's tutorial, so make sure you guys drop a like if you found this video helpful, and make sure to subscribe to the channel for more future retail tutorials. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and on that note, I'll catch you all on the next one.